Are you really living or just constantly judging yourself through other people's eyes? It can feel like every glance is on you, watching and analyzing your every little move. Science calls this the spotlight effect. A well-known study from Cornell University found that we tend to overestimate how much others notice us by as much as 50%. The truth is, while you're busy worrying about what others think, they're just as busy worrying about themselves. We're like prisoners in a room we built ourselves. At the same time, the guard and the one being questioned. So how do you pull all that scattered energy back from the outside world and use it to take care of yourself? This video isn't about ignoring the world, and it's not telling you to cut people off. Instead, it uses brain science to give you the most effective strategy: how to fully focus on yourself and forget about everyone else. That's the only way to take back your power and your freedom. First, I want you to understand that the feeling like all eyes are on you isn't a personality flaw. It's actually a brain mechanism being used the wrong way. Instead of living and experiencing life, you're stuck in a state that psychology calls self-focused attention. Imagine you're sitting on a date or having a conversation with someone really interesting. That should be your moment to enjoy their story, feel the connection, and share some laughs. But instead, your brain is running a second script on another screen inside your head. You're thinking, did that sound stupid? Do they think I'm boring? Is my voice a bit too high right now? When you do this, you're no longer truly in the conversation. You become an observer of yourself instead of a real participant in the flow of life. The problem is this takes up a huge amount of mental energy. Science calls it cognitive load. You can't be a performer shining on stage and also sit in the front row judging every tiny mistake at the same time. When you try to do both, the result is always awkwardness, exhaustion, and that strange empty feeling after the conversation ends. You're not tired from talking, you're tired from constantly editing yourself the entire time. And this fear of being judged, or the need to be accepted, is actually a trap, the validation trap. Constantly using the crowd's perspective to measure yourself doesn't just drain your energy. The real cost is much higher. You're handing over control of your life to other people. This distortion of your identity doesn't happen overnight with a loud crash. It slowly eats away at you every day through 3 common behavior patterns. Be honest with yourself and ask, which one are you stuck in? Sign 1, the social chameleon effect. You're a master at reading people. Around one group of friends, you act one way. Around coworkers, you switch into a completely different version of yourself. You always know how to adjust to please everyone and avoid upsetting anyone. But the dark side of this is identity exhaustion. Late at night when you're alone, you might suddenly realize, I don't even know what I truly like or who I really am anymore. When you spend your whole life blending into the crowd, the price you pay is losing yourself completely. Sign 2, living like your own PR manager. This is when your cognitive load is constantly overloaded. You're not just posting a photo, you're managing your image. You're not just telling a joke, you're testing audience reactions. Every action you take, from what you wear to where you sit in a cafe, is filtered through one question: how will others see this? You turn your life into a never-ending marketing campaign where you're both the product and the exhausted manager chasing approval metrics from the world. Sign 3, waiting for permission to exist. You have ability, you have dreams, but you're stuck, unable to act. Why? Because you rely on other people's approval as your only compass. Your boss praises you. You feel like a genius. A random stranger online criticizes you. Your whole world falls apart. You don't dare start anything without a nod or advice from others. In reality, you've handed over your entire locus of control to a faceless crowd. People who are already too busy dealing with their own mess. You see, you're not failing in society's eyes, but you are failing to become yourself. Living a life disconnected from who you truly are is the most suffocating prison, because you're both the prisoner and the one holding the key. So how do we break that shell and escape this maze? This is where we start to restructure your attention. Here are 5 practical, brain-based steps to pull your focus back from the crowd and bring it back to yourself. Step 1, awareness. To protect your peace, you need to learn how to shift your brain from self mode to task mode. Neuroscience has discovered something interesting. Your brain has 2 networks that work against each other like fire and water. One is the default mode network, DMN. It turns on when your mind is idle. It's the one that pulls you into worries about the past, the future, and especially the toxic question, what do other people think about me? The other is the task positive network, TPN. It activates when you're fully focused on a specific task. The amazing part is that these two networks work like a seesaw. When one goes up, the other has to go down. So the only way to forget about others isn't to fight your thoughts, but to actively switch on your TPN. For example, if you're walking down the street and feel like people are watching how you walk, immediately shift your focus to a specific task in your environment. Count how many red cars pass by, or focus completely on the feeling of your feet touching the ground. When your brain is forced to process real, present moment data, the anxious DMN automatically shuts down because it doesn't have enough resources to stay active. The same applies in conversations. If you notice yourself worrying about how you look in someone else's eyes, force yourself to listen closely to every word they say. Watch their breathing rhythm. Focus on understanding their message instead of preparing your response. When you truly enter the act of listening, you disappear. Your anxious self fades into the action. That's the state of flow, where the outside world disappears and it's just you and the moment, fully connected. Step 2. Build an inner anchor. To take back your personal power, you need to develop what psychology calls an internal locus of control. Imagine the world as a stormy ocean. Most people live like drifting pieces of wood with no anchor, pushed in whatever direction the wind blows. I once met a man in his 30s working at a large company in Chicago. He had everything: a high income, a luxury car, and constant praise from coworkers for his hard work. But he admitted that every time he stood alone in an elevator, he felt this strange fear. He was afraid that if the praise stopped one day, he would be nothing. He wasn't working out of passion. He was performing in a long-running show for an invisible audience. His life was a series of efforts to earn approval, like an addict needing a dose of dopamine from the outside just to feel okay. To build an internal locus of control, you need to set goals and values that only you know about. Make a small promise to yourself and keep it, even when no one is watching. When you complete these personal KPIs, your brain releases a more stable form of dopamine. This is the dopamine of self-respect, completely different from the short-term dopamine that comes from other people's praise. As you stack enough of these quiet wins, other people's opinions will still exist, but they won't have the power to shake your foundation. You stop waiting for the world to give you permission to be happy. Step 3. Remove the projection lens. This step requires understanding a concept called social projection. It's a cognitive bias where we assume others are thinking, feeling, and judging things the same way we are. When you walk into a room and feel like people are judging you, the scientific reality is often this: you are judging yourself in some way, and your brain is projecting that judgment onto the people around you. Research in cognitive psychology shows that your brain uses your own inner experience as the default reference point to interpret the world. If you're labeling yourself as lazy or not good enough, your prefrontal cortex activates those patterns and makes you see that judgment on your boss's or coworker's face, even if they're actually thinking about what to eat for dinner. That voice in your head isn't really other people. It's your own voice using their faces to speak. Once you understand this mechanism, you realize something freeing. Most of the judgment you fear is an illusion created by your own brain. When you start accepting your flaws objectively, when you stop punishing yourself, the outside world suddenly feels softer too. You take back the energy you've been using to read minds and use it to adjust yourself instead. Step 4. Become the observer, not the victim. To do this, psychology offers a skill called metacognition. It sounds academic, but it's simply the ability to step back and observe your own thoughts. Most of us get stuck inside our thoughts. When your brain says, "They're probably laughing at me," you instantly believe it. But metacognition creates a pause. Instead of getting pulled into the anxiety, you just notice it. Oh, my brain is running that anxious script again. It's releasing cortisol because it thinks I'm in danger. Science shows that simply naming the thought can calm down your brain's alarm system. See these worries about others as just passing thoughts, not truth. You have the thought, but you are not the thought. Next time you feel uneasy, ask yourself, do I actually have real evidence for this, or am I making it up? When you start analyzing your anxiety logically instead of reacting to it emotionally, you'll see how unreasonable it often is. From there, you can gently ignore what's outside your control and save your energy for what truly matters. Finally, step 5. Give yourself permission to be unimpressive. We live in an era that worships perfection, but the need to impress is the tightest chain tying you to other people. When you try to impress someone, you place them as the judge and yourself as the one waiting for a verdict. Try doing something you know won't impress anyone. Post an unedited photo. Admit a small mistake without explaining it away. When you stop trying to impress, you become authentic. And the paradox of the human brain is this: we're naturally drawn to authenticity more than fake perfection. Accepting that you're ordinary is actually a form of ultimate power. It gives you permission to make mistakes, to experiment, and to live without constantly holding yourself together. Focusing on yourself is not cold withdrawal. It's the only way to show up in a healthy way. When you no longer need others to fill your inner insecurity, you stop demanding and start giving genuinely. You enter relationships not as someone begging for validation, but as someone who already has enough confidence to share. If you don't start making this shift right now, the price you'll pay is a borrowed life. Imagine continuing to live through other people's eyes for another 10, 20 years. You'll still follow the script society laid out: career growth, marriage, buying a house, relationships that look stable on the outside. But one morning in your 50s or 60s, you'll wake up, look in the mirror, and see a stranger staring back at you. You'll realize you've been incredibly successful at building a life that others admire, yet you feel like a stranger in your own home. The greatest pain in life isn't being rejected by the world. It's achieving everything the world praises, while inside there's nothing but emptiness because you lost connection with your true self. You'll realize you spent your whole life trying to please people who never truly cared about you, and you missed your only chance to discover who you really are. Modern neuroscience has confirmed something ancient philosophers have said for thousands of years. At its deepest level, life is a single-player game. Every joy, every pain, every moment of success or failure you experience actually happens inside your own mind. The outside world only provides raw data, signals. Your brain is the one that interprets, labels, and gives meaning to all of it. You are the director, the writer, the main character, and the only audience watching the movie of your life from beginning to end. Other people, no matter how important they seem, are just guest actors appearing in a few scenes. So why spend most of your valuable time worrying about how those guest actors are judging your movie? They're too busy worrying about their own. Focusing on yourself is one of the most courageous and revolutionary things you can do in a world that constantly pulls your attention outward. It starts with learning to appreciate silence, learning to talk to yourself with kindness instead of judgment. That's when you realize your value is constant. It doesn't go up with 1,000 likes, and it doesn't go down because of someone's criticism. You are like a rock in a rushing river. The water may flow and crash around you, but the rock remains unchanged. Next time you feel the spotlight effect turn on, take a deep breath. Remember your TPN and your inner anchor, and tell yourself, I'm not here to perform, I'm here to be present. And just like that, the spotlight of judgment will fade away. You don't need to hate the world or run from it. For the first time, you'll feel a strange sense of relief. You don't have to force yourself to play a role anymore. You're simply living real, grounded, and fully your own. Before you leave this video, I want you to take one quiet minute and ask yourself one question. If tomorrow no one was there to watch you, how would you choose to live your life? The answer to that question is the most accurate coordinate of your freedom. If this journey of finding yourself means something to you, share your thoughts in the comments, or hit like to spread this message to others who are struggling under the weight of the world's gaze. I'm Apex. Don't forget to subscribe so we can keep exploring the deeper layers of the mind together. Goodbye, and see you next time.